Hi guys, this is Mike Doble with Ski Southeast, and it is Saturday morning, January 25th, about 10 o'clock a.m. And as promised, we were going to start showing some of our new features where we're bringing in guests from some of the mountain ops and management crews at all of our ski areas here in the Southeast and Mid-Atlantic. And I'm showing you right now a live shot of Appalachian Ski Mountain as we're bringing in owner and president Brad Moretz. Welcome in, Brad.
Good to be with you.
Thanks a lot for giving me the time. I know you guys have got a lot going on over at the mountain this morning, so I do appreciate you giving me a little bit of time. I kind of mentioned a little bit yesterday. I know everybody who's watching this video right now is very aware that it's obviously been a very challenging winter thus far. You know, we just passed, I guess, a little bit past the halfway point in the season last weekend with MLK weekend. You know, how would you, I guess, personally rate the success of the season so far in terms of, I guess, skier visits, you know, kind of on a scale of 1 to 10 for those of us who don't know the accounting side of things?
Well, you know, you have to look at it from the start, and one thing that we were pretty excited about was the fact that we got started a week earlier than we usually do. As a matter of fact, not just usually, but our second earliest start in history. And then when we did get open, we had a majority of our slopes open almost overnight. So that really got us off to a good start. Let everybody know that we were going to be skiing for Thanksgiving and going to have the slopes open for Christmas, and that really got things kicked off to about the best start that we could hope for. And then since then, we've had good weather a lot of the time, and when we have, our participation has been great. You know, there have been some times we've had some rain, and then people have deferred to when things are better. So
Sure.
all in all, though, you know, I would say if you were wanting to rate it from 1 to 10, you know, we might have to say something pretty close to a 9, maybe. We've been pretty pleased.
Damn, that's awesome. That's good to hear too. And I know I've asked you that question in the past, sometimes when we met face to face, and you know, you're like a lot of people, everybody in the ski industry these days, you kind of have to be glass half full kind of guys. And I remember asking you a few years back, you know, one of the more challenging years that I thought, you know, and this was probably, gosh knows, 10 or 12 years ago, you know, how'd the season go? And I was kind of expecting, it's been okay. And you came out and pretty much shared that, no. And indeed, you know, it's probably been one of your better years, maybe not a number one, but certainly a top 2 or 3. So to hear a 9 out of 10 is pretty cool, dude.
Yeah, and you know, it's not out of the realm of possibility. It could be a record year. You know, the season's not done yet, but it has. You know, we had a strong Christmas holiday, and we had a strong period over Thanksgiving, and you know, our holidays have been good, and the times in between, we've had good skiing. The economy is good, and that makes a big difference. So
Absolutely.
people are traveling, people are spending money. It's a good economy right now.
Yeah, no doubt about it. You know, I think a lot of people, in fact, I kind of mentioned this to a couple of people in the last few days. I get out there and I'm chatting up the ski industry a fair amount, obviously, and people look at me like I've got a third eye. Sometimes they go, "Oh my gosh, you mean there's snow out there on the slopes?" You know, I think a lot of people who visit Appalachian Ski Mountain from off the mountain, you know, from all points south, have an impression that, you know, this winter's been bad. Obviously, you just rated it a good 9 out of 10 in terms of skier visits. Obviously, we wish we might have had a little bit more consistently cold temperatures and snow, but how do you guys personally, you know, kind of fight that impression or perception yourselves?
Well, you know, we'll tell people to go and look at the webcams, and people do. You know, the skiers today are a lot more sophisticated, and they have the technology to sort of see exactly what things are looking like a lot more than they used to. So, you know, people can see for themselves. It's just a little bit different than it used to be, and so people can look on there and say, "Oh, well, things are good." And you know, the webcams rotate, move around, and they can look around and see everything. So, you know, really, I haven't had the feeling that we've been having to battle the perception of the weather. Now, from day to day, people look and think, well, you know, maybe today's not as nice as I'd like for it to be. We're just going to come earlier or later. And so that's the main thing, is having to sort of roll with when the good weather is, and be ready for the the moments of opportunity,
Yeah, I know that started really transitioning numerous years ago. Before that, everybody just pretty much had to plan a trip and wish for the best. Now, I think a lot of the hotels and a lot of the accommodations around the region are certainly seeing where people are making reservations closer to their time, unless, obviously you're looking at a holiday weekend and then you book that well in advance. But, I think you're right. I think people have gotten smarter about clicking around. Still amazes me, though, how many people that, maybe are not thinking skiing and snowboarding every single day are still having that perception that, as warm as it's been in their hometowns, let's say Charlotte or Raleigh, Durham, etc., Atlanta, all pointing south, as warm as it's been down there and as rainy as it's been, they kind of think there can't be snow up here. So I know I mentioned to you yesterday, I know that back January 11th, we had that 8 or 10 day mild period, and January 11th, I saw it even on Ray's weather, 4 point something inches of rain. Obviously there that kind of washed out things, particularly over on the orchard side. And then you come back over the last 6 or 7 days, you guys have been able to make a truckload of snow. I tell people all the time, you guys can put a veritable blizzard, on that mountain when you crank up the snowmaking. But that's kind of been back and forth and back and forth. But I think I already know the answer. You just mentioned a second ago, you don't really feel like you've had to really battle any kind of perception or anything out there. But, I kind of feel like it has to be frustrating for you guys to make all of that snow and then turn around and see it kind of washed away. And of course, even last night, I think over Friday, we ended up with about 1.5 inches of rain. Obviously, again, is that frustrating for you guys and your mountain ops people, or is this pretty much just part of the business?
Well, we would always like to see about 25 degrees and blue sky, but some of the other stuff is part of the real world, and so if somebody wants to have some fun, they're just going to come out and ski wherever it is. I know if I go to ski somewhere on vacation, I'm going to get out and get on the slopes no matter what. But all that aside, so when you've got rain forecasts, people have just got to roll with that. And either, sometimes it's a 30% chance of rain, and that means it might not rain at all, most likely won't, or it might be a 60% chance, and that means a 60% chance that we're going to get a 30-minute sprinkle. So, a good majority of the time, that forecast of rain ends up not even materializing into anything significant. So, we one of the things that really makes a big difference for us is the great job that our groomers do, because they keep things looking good every day, and even when we had those 3 days that we were closed, it looked good right up until the moment we closed, just about.
Mm-hmm.
So we can have really good looking conditions with a whole lot of bad weather. Now, over the Christmas holidays, that was really strong for us. And, we went almost 4 weeks without any significant snowmaking weather. We went 26 days before we started making snow for MLK. And there were a couple times in there that we might have made snow literally just a few hours at night, but it wasn't really anything significant. So, to go for almost 4 weeks and during that time have maybe what might have been 8 or 10 days of rain and still have a really good period just goes to show you the almost instantaneous resilience that, that the slopes have, and, that good conditions, they're just back almost instantaneous. We get the groomers out and things are looking great again.
Well, you mentioned the resort cams. There's zero question right now. You can see great side-to-side coverage. I know you guys did some focused snowmaking up on the terrain parks earlier over this last 6 or 7 days that we had the real cold cold temperatures, and in just overnight it was amazing, the transition from looking at things kind of narrowing up on the slopes a little bit to almost like mid-season conditions again. So between those snowmaking, the snow ops, and then, like you said, the groomers, we show them a lot of times. We'll capture images, when the sun's rising, you guys are out there before, while it's even dark, manufacturing or farming that snow, as we kind of say. So, obviously good on you guys. And I think every skier and snowboarder in the region, southeast and mid-Atlantic, knows we wouldn't be enjoying those slope conditions without the not only the making of the snow, but the grooming of it as well, no question. Real quick, I was just going to mention, obviously, and I won't keep talking negative. We'll get on to some more positive stuff here in a second. But have you guys given any thought whatsoever with all those rain events that we had that with a little bit of colder temperatures, we could have had maybe 60 or 70 inches of natural snowfall so far this year? Obviously, rather than that, we've got a drought. And I know you guys really don't depend on natural snow. It's all about making that man-made powder. But have you guys given any thought to that yourself, or you pretty much don't dwell on things that you don't have any control over?
Oh, as far as what amount of snow we would have if we had rain, then people would have had trouble maybe getting to the ski area, been worried about the roads. We hadn't had that problem, so really we've just been thankful that we've had a lot of water to make snow, and we're 100% open today. So
yeah.
That's good news, and you can look outside, and all the parks are open. They're full of features. There are all kinds of events going on today. One of the things, X Games are going on out west, and we've got a skier that's participating in it that grew up, learned to ski here, Luke Winkleman.
Yeah.
So we've got a big screen set up, and Red Bull's having a little event to sort of celebrate their our hometown son becoming internationally prominent. So, just a lot of fun things happening today.
Yeah, Luke's a beast. We shared that information a couple of days ago when you guys announced what you were doing, partnering with Red Bull there on the mountain today. So I'm sure it'd be a great time. I'm actually seeing right now some snow falling across portions of the high country, and obviously some breaks in clouds, a little bit of sun shining, everything else. So it looks like it's going to be a pretty fabulous day, I guess, to be over there at Appalachian today for sure. I mentioned kind of to some people the other day, I visited App a couple of weeks ago and noted the new check-in kiosks that you guys now have, right there when you first come in to check in. Obviously, I know that's got to make things easier for guests to kind of check in and out and get on the slopes quicker, but can you elaborate a little bit on that system, kind of what prompted you to do it, maybe the benefits?
Well, yeah, our kiosk system sort of dovetails with our online platform. What we're really encouraging people to do is to get their tickets and rental equipment online, and then when they do that, they fill out all of their personal information for their rental equipment, their height, their weight, their shoe size, their skier type, and then when they come to the ski area, it is super simple. So they just give us their name, we print out the forms, we print their tickets, hand them to them, they're done. I mean, it's just it is the fastest way to get out on the slopes, and just it makes it faster for our rental department. It automatically calculates attention settings. It automatically calculates ski length. It's just we're able to get people out faster than any time in history.
Yeah, that is awesome. So I didn't realize that's not only there in the lodge when you go in to be able to check in with those kiosks, but you can do that online as well.
Yeah, you can do all that online. It does the same thing here, but if you buy your tickets online, you get an extra hour free. And so you just get a better bang for your buck by doing it online. And that's day or night. So during the day, you get an extra hour appended on to the end. At night, you get that extra hour at the beginning, so you can get started an hour earlier.
Wow.
And so on these midnight blast nights that we have, we also offer a half-night ticket, which starts at 8:30, and that's a deal. So, for example, if you're coming on a midnight blast half night, an adult ticket is $25.
Right.
So that would start at 8:30, but if you buy your ticket online, you can come at 7:30.
And a lot of people don't know that, but that allows that
value that you can get.
Oh, absolutely. And that midnight blast literally lasts until midnight, right, on Friday nights.
That's right, Friday and Saturday nights.
Friday and Saturday.
Friday and Saturday night, and then on President's Day weekend it'll be Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night.
Very cool.
But what you're talking about, the kiosk in the lodge, people walk right up. You can register any number of people, or you can spread out and do one or two at each kiosk. And we've got about 24 kiosks, so that it is super quick. We almost never see anybody standing in line at a computer. I mean, it just goes so fast, and so that's definitely a big step forward for customer experience.
Yeah, no question. And I've seen those, obviously out west a good bit. And I know a couple of the ski shops have kind of toyed with those even here in the high country for a little while, but you guys are always on the cutting edge of that. I tell people, pound for pound, no question, Appalachian Ski Mountain is the most efficiently ran, cleanest, coolest. Your cafe and everything offers food that a lot of places don't offer. So again, pound for pound, you guys are definitely a beast. I know I've kept you a lot here, and I appreciate your time. What I was going to kind of get to in closing, one of the questions that I've received quite often over the last little bit with the way the first half of the season has gone, and obviously the hope that, weather permitting, we're going to have a great second half to the season, and that can carry some of the ski areas on into the end of March and perhaps even a day or two into April. I know you guys are always pretty consistent about announcing an opening date, weather permitting, and then certainly a closing date, weather permitting. But assuming winter plays nice the rest of the way, is there any chance that you guys might be extending the season this year?
Well, even if the weather is good, we will keep making snow right up to the day before we close. And so people will know they're going to have good conditions right up to that. But the fourth Sunday in March, we sort of feel like that is the magic moment for us. And, people know that they've got to get in there skiing by that time, and where they're going to have great quality skiing. And then after that, it's just time to look at something else. But it's not just our guests, it's also our staff. They need to plan on their lives, and it just helps. It helps have the operation run smoother for everyone to know what to count on.
Yeah, I hear you clearly, my friend. And I know the Meltdown Games are always planned for that, so you kind of have a lot working around that. And I know one of the things that we've always claimed that, you've even told me in the past that sometimes you guys will have mounds of snow still up on that mountain into May and June. So it's usually not for a lack of snow that the ski areas in the southeastern mid-Atlantic close. It's more of that skier interest. They're now thinking golf, tennis, yard cleaning, spring cleaning, you name it. So good on you guys. I know I mentioned real briefly that I know you spoke over at the Chamber this past week at some of the events, done that a lot here recently, but talking about the year-round tourism economy in Blowing Rock in the high country. And of course, really that applies to all of the ski mountains across the entire region. But prior to ski areas being available to extend those and make it truly a four-season scenario back in the 50s and 60s prior to the Appalachian opening up or whatever, used to be a whole lot more seasonable. But can you share any insight that the listeners may not be aware of as far as that economic impact and as far as some of the things you may have talked about this past week at the Chamber?
Sure. Well, the high country ski areas, and we're talking every county, probably have about $160 million economic impact on this area in that vicinity. But when our ski area, when Appalachian Ski Mountain opened in 1962 in Blowing Rock, there was only one restaurant in Blowing Rock that served dinner during the winter, and I think there are 22 now. And there was only one motel that stayed open during the winter, and I believe there may be 20 some businesses that sell lodging during the winter, in addition to all the online options that you have now. But one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is having a year-round economy created a real estate boom in this area. And the year before Appalachian Ski Mountain opened, the tax rate in Watauga County was 95 cents per $100 of valuation.
Wow.
And now there would only be, I can't remember, 2 or 3 counties in the entire state that would have a higher tax rate than that. 2 or 3 in the whole state.
Unreal.
But now Watauga County's got like the 4th, I think it's maybe the 4th highest tax rate. I don't have my notes in front of me, but they're way up in the top 10% of being the lowest tax rates, and that's due to the year-round tourism economy that we've got.
Yeah, pretty amazing for sure. Well, listen, brother, man, I appreciate the heck out of you taking time, and I know you guys have a lot going on, mentioning Luke being there, and looks like a full house of skiers, so I do appreciate you taking the time and being on with us today. And you know me, I'll hit you up again to talk some as the season goes forward too, but appreciate you coming on again. Thanks a lot.
Anytime. Take care, Mike.
All right, brother. Take care.